Hi there, this is Jason Van Gumster, and I got a little time lapse for you. If you happen to follow my daily lying at monsterjavaguns.com/lies-lies-lies, then you may have noticed that I have a new graphic that I've been posting with that, and this is a time lapse of me creating that graphic of pants on fire. So let's go ahead and play it and see what happens. I'm going to try and give you the quick and dirty run through because I don't have music. So, ready, set, go. Alright, so modeling from a cube. Mirror modifier, nothing super special here. It's mirror modifier with subdivision surfaces and a couple loop cuts. Rigging is also very simple. Handful of bones, naming the bones, mirroring the bones, posing the bones, automatic weights, and yeah, so put it all in place. And then, of course, it's very cartoony. It's going to be cartoony anyway, but the idea is to get that pose the way I wanted to. And so I also ended up doing a little bit of modeling in Crazy Space by adding some subdivisions and massaging things around and doing those sort of things. But, you know, it wasn't quite perfect. And keep tweaking it and tweaking it and trying to get it, and even adjusting the weight paint. I only have to do it on one side because that's, you know, mirror modifier. And tweaking it and getting that there. And then once I did that, applied all the modifiers and started sculpting. So, din topo. What's the proper pronunciation for that? I don't know. Well, in any case, I'll call it din topo. Din topo, sculpting on it, adding all my creases and some extra details on it. Again, it's still pretty rudimentary and cartoony, and it's not super high poly, so I can pop into edit mode and make a little adjustments there with the proportional edit tool that were much more faster than sculpting it. Adding a solidify modifier because I thought I needed it at the time. And then these are going to be my smoke sources. And then, of course, my smoke domain. Getting those all set up and arranged the way I want and setting my preferences, and there's the beginning of my smoke. Of course, I needed wind to blow the smoke because I want it to look like these pants are running, but I didn't want to animate the pants. So adding smoke and wind can fake the hell out of that because I'm only rendering one frame. So going through and testing the simulation, I want to have blocky, chunky little smoke with moving the right way in the blend. Then I added the fire. Quick and simple setting for that. Just my domain so that I can get my camera shot working a little bit better. And yeah, now I have getting the chunkier fire and getting it to play a little bit nicer. And really also, and this is a lot of basically trial and error. You know, simulation can only be controlled with parameters, but so much. So going through and setting those up and tricking them out and adding some textures for the actual smoke to give some variety, and, you know, changing those pants away from that ugly gray, at least at the black color gives me something. Put my camera in place, all while still caching the smoke simulation because I wanted to test it. Set my render resolution to 1000 by 1000, and then put my ground plane in there. And now this is just about the time where add a bevel and put the cyc wall so that I have that white void thing going on there, and then caching a smoke simulation. I ran that one much faster, but cache the smoke simulation and test it out, and now it's much more to my liking. And now it's a matter of trying to go through and set up the materials to try and render this. And initially I was trying to do this in Blender Internal. So while my smoke system's caching, I'm sitting here trying to set up the smoke and fire voxel data and getting that to work right. But for some reason it just wasn't playing the way I wanted it to. In fact, it didn't seem to be rendering at all. And rather than try and deal with that, I said, screw it. I'm going to do this in cycles. So there's starting with the cycles. The cycles is really stupid easy. It's a matter of putting in the volume absorption and volume scatter nodes, and an emission node for the actual flame part, and some attribute nodes, of course, to stipulate each of those things, and a ramp to give it a color. And then, of course, adding the pants color. This is just modeling it up a little bit there. Mottling up. M-O-T-T-L-E. Model. You know, noise. So, sorry, I digress while I'm showing my fire, increasing the emission value so it actually looks like it's, you know, flamey. There you go. Poof. Now it's a fire. Now I need to add some more tweaks, so going back into sculpt, putting a little bit more wrinkles in the pants. Granted, it's the pants are still cartoony, but I wanted to have a little bit higher level of detail, so putting some seams in the pants and a little bit more details adjustments, and only on one side because it's not a turnaround or anything, so I'm only going to be adding detail on one side of it. If I ever do a higher res version of this render, I'll probably go back in and sculpt even more details on the pants. But for, doing something quick and dirty, I mean, I was doing this in like an hour or so, including simulation time. So there's my mottling of my pants material, adding some clouds and whatnot. Also, the solidify modifier, the simplify modifier, and smoothing modifier, decided I didn't need those, so I killed both of those. And then I rendered it out and tried to do some testing. Now, as I was rendering it out, I was like, it's a pair of running pants, so maybe there should be some motion blur. So I played with some ideas, and I was like trying to do maybe I should try cycles in camera motion blur, but it didn't quite play the way I wanted to. So maybe I'll just do directional blur in the compositor, and I mean that would work, but you lose a lot of detail. And I can try the regular blur node and only on the x-axis, and that I had a moving camera, so I tried vector blur. Vector blur gave me my motion, but again, killed all my detail, so I wasn't quite working the way I wanted to. But I gave it a chance. I tried to render it all the way out, and then after adding the vector blur, mix back in the initial unblurred version to try and sort of put some of that detail back in, but it didn't quite ever play as nicely as I wanted it to. And this is the mix, trying to mix that back in there. So this is me trying to play with it and say, do I like it? No. Yep. Maybe. Yes. No. Screw it. This is what I'm using. And that's basically my little time lapse. Thank you for paying attention, and I look forward to hearing what you got to say about it. And also, if you want to follow my lies, again, that's monsterjavaguns.com/lies-lies-lies. Thank you.